Now, here's an example of NHS money being well spent. Over the years, we've taken you into some of the most cutting-edge operating theatres in the country. And what you're going to see tonight really is something very special.
Yes, now, don't worry. There won't be anything here that's going to put you off your tea, but this is real-life brain surgery that offers real hope to Parkinson's patients for whom all else has failed.
Slowly, slowly, slowly.
It's a sentimental journey for Siva and his wife Prima. They've come back to visit the West London corner shop that was once their family home as well as their livelihood.
Not bad, not bad. Long time no see. Yeah. Look like same.
No, grey hair now, man. Getting older.
For years, the couple worked 18-hour days behind the counter.
Good luck for the business anyway.
Same days, that's good luck for
Thanks so
you.
much.
That's good luck for good life.
So when Siva began to slow down, Prima thought he simply needed a break.
I noticed his hand is tremoring. Yeah, I thought it's very hard working, that's why he's getting tired. So he's shaking or something else. I said, go rest.
But Siva's symptoms became so bad that 5 years ago, the couple were forced to sell up shop. Now, even speech is difficult.
2 years ago, I can't speak. My tongue can't turn properly.
Neurologists here at Charing Cross Hospital in London diagnosed Siva with Parkinson's disease, an incurable condition caused by the gradual loss of brain cells that regulate function like movement and balance.
So within the brain, there are various pathways containing nerve cells. And in Parkinson's disease, a particular pathway that contains a chemical called dopamine is degenerating over time. And if we look at this special scan, you can see two very bright areas, which is the dopamine within these cells lighting up. And as the condition Parkinson's worsens, you can see that this fades away to two little blurred dots in the later stages, which would be the case with Mr. Siva.
Low dopamine levels cause the characteristic signs of Parkinson's, including tremor, stiffness, loss of smell, depression and nerve pain. For Siva, its impact has been devastating, and the more emotional he gets, the worse his symptoms become, including his speech difficulty.
Nobody realizes how much pain I have. In my morning wake up, I go to the garden and cry.
So, Jasper, AP is on the left side, okay?
1 in 500 people in the UK suffers from Parkinson's. For a small percentage like Siva, for whom medication no longer works, one option is deep brain stimulation. It's a daunting operation that demands he stays awake through the crucial stages to help direct his surgeons. Specialists here at Charing Cross Hospital are going to thread 2 electrodes like this deep inside Siva's brain. They're going to jam the faulty nerve signals using this neuromodulator. It's challenging surgery that demands pinpoint accuracy.
This part of the operation is done with the patient awake, and he's also off his regular medications. So they are both important because we can actually test his responses on stimulation, how he responds in terms of his Parkinsonian symptoms, his control of his hands, his speech, but we can also test if there are any adverse effects.
Hello, Sai.
Hey, Dad. Are you okay, Dad?
I'm fine. How are you?
Before the operation, Siva and Prima are making one last call to their son, a medical student working in Australia. It was Sai who first suggested to his father that brain surgery might be possible.
It's quite amazing what they've been able to do. So I think with deep brain stimulation, it's definitely a good thing for you.
It's a long-distance chat that helps raise Siva's spirits.
Not nervous now. I'm all ready now.
You're all ready?
Yeah, I'm ready now. Do or die.
After operation, everything is going to be better. I hope. Hopefully.
Well, we can say with a smile on our face, can't we, that later in the show we're going to see what happened when Siva went in for the surgery, and he's going to be here to tell us how he's feeling now. We've spent the afternoon with him, and he's a lovely man. He really is.
So nice. It's time now to check back in with Siva, whose Parkinson's had left him needing dangerous brain surgery.
I guess now, just a reminder, when our cameras filmed him in hospital, it was almost time for an operation that has to be seen to be believed. Here we go.
Today, 60-year-old Siva Palaraja is having deep brain stimulation to help relieve the tremor, stiffness and speech problems caused by his Parkinson's disease.
They checked your blood sugar yesterday. It was a bit high, wasn't it?
And he's had an unexpected visitor. His much-loved son, Sai, a medical student, has flown back from Australia to be at his father's bedside.
I figured it's quite important for my dad if I was here, so I decided to come back a bit early.
Neurosurgeon Dipankar Nandi will be inserting electrodes deep into Siva's brain to jam the faulty nerve signals triggering his symptoms.
It's critical, the accuracy of where we need to go, and any millimetre shift, any direction can have effects which you don't want. Well, I'll see you shortly.
Okay, thank you so
I'll
much.
see you upstairs.
Today, Siva will need all his courage. The operation demands that he stays awake during the critical stages so the team can gauge his responses. To support his father, Mr. Nandi has invited Sai to be in theatre.
We tend to do this quite often nowadays, to have a family member who can speak his language, who can respond to him, reassure him, helps immensely.
With his head immobilised, Siva is scanned so Mr. Nandi can pinpoint his target, an area of Siva's brain no bigger than a grain of rice.
That is the top of his brain, the head, and this is where we need to go. It's a long way in, I would say about 15 centimeters. If you make an error here or there's damage here where you shouldn't be going, it can lead to paralysis, death, it can lead to difficulty with speaking, walking, balance.
Back in theatre, Mr. Nandi uses the coordinates from the scans to assemble a second head frame.
Essentially, it is engineering, and very, very good engineering. Well, it's more like mechano. So once we got this on him, it will now permit us to deviate from that target.
Meanwhile, neurologist Peter Bain is checking the pre-operative range of Siva's movement.
We're feeling the tone in the muscles, which is the stiffness in the muscles. As you can see, I'm having to work quite hard even just to bend his wrist, and that's a hallmark of Parkinson's. So when the stimulation is being tested, we hope to see most of that rigidity disappear.
Siva is still wide awake, but with the benefit of a strong local anaesthetic, he feels nothing as Mr. Nandi creates the pathway into his brain.
So what we are doing is now the electrode is in, and Dr. Bain and Pavesi will check stimulation.
The team deliver a small electrical current into the centre of Siva's brain.
Just open and close the hand, right open. Wow, that's what 1.1. This is fantastic.
Even at the very lowest levels of stimulation, the results are truly remarkable.
What do you think, Mr. Siva?
Yes, beginning to rock and roll, eh?
It's amazing, yeah. The results are like immediate. Like, all these problems, the rigidity, it just sort of disappeared.
Dr. Bain wants to do another check. Before the stimulation, Siva's speech was almost incomprehensible.
Can you just say, my son is called Sai again for me? Just say that again.
My son is called Sai.
We've knocked the tremor out.
Satisfied they found the right level of stimulation to control movement on the left side of Siva's body, the second electrode is threaded into place to stimulate Siva's right-hand side.
I get a great sense of relief that we're in the right place, that we've hit the grain of rice in the brain, thanks to Mr. Nandi's brilliant work. And what's fantastic for me as a neurologist is to see 7 years of Parkinsonism disappearing in just minutes. That's just quite incredible. We would not normally see that.
For now, the stimulation will be turned off, and Siva will be given a general anaesthetic, while the electrodes are wired to a programmable pacemaker implanted in his chest.
We just tunnel through some wires and put the battery in. And that's that.
It's been a long day, full of trepidation, but at last, Siva can smile.
Mr. Nandi is my God.
You must tell that to my wife.
Neurologist Dr. Peter Bain are here with us. Siva, thank you so much, first of all, for letting us follow your story. It was fascinating to see the effects of that operation there. But, I mean, you were awake throughout the whole thing, as Dr. Bain was explaining. Can you remember how you felt then when you were in the operating theatre?
Earlier I was slightly worried earlier. After that I am quite well, sir. I move my finger and can perfect.
And that moment when you were
Yeah.
gripping your hand and moving
Yeah.
your fingers,
Yeah.
how did you comprehend what was happening?
Yeah, miracles. If I do the whole my brain, put the wire over there, touch my brain inside.
Yeah.
Suddenly change my movement, everything changed.
Yeah.
From that moment,
Yeah.
goodness me. And so, what's the reality now of living this way with Parkinson's for you, and how does it compare to before, and how do you actually feel now?
My day-to-day activities, I am eating and I am driving quite well now.
Yeah.
Eating now is okay. Personally, I am eating myself. Usually, I depend some other people. And tremor stop actually 70-60%.
That's a big improvement,
Yeah,
isn't it?
medication also 50% cut. Earlier 14 milligram roll.
I see.
Yeah.
So
Only
you've reduced your medication.
reduce my medication 8 milligram.
Gosh.
Cinemat plus also I'm taking 4 times now 3 times.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a big change to your
Big
life
change,
then,
yeah.
yeah. And Dr. Bain, do you expect there to be a continual progression now, or is it a case of adjusting the little remote control that Siva has just to check his levels and see actually, you know, which level is best for him?
Yeah, we still expect further improvement because he'll be coming back to Charing Cross Hospital for further programming sessions, and we think we can get better improvement. But he also has a handheld controller where he can adjust his own stimulation levels, and we set the top and bottom levels that he can go to, and therefore he can adjust it every single day whenever he wants to his requirements.
Could we just see it, Siva? Do you just want to pull it out there?
So remote control.
And so the condition then, Dr. Bain, it still differs day to day here, but what effect does this have on the kind of long-term prognosis of Parkinson's?
In terms of the long-term prognosis, it doesn't adjust the rate of decline of Parkinson's, which is a very gradual, slow rate of decline. But it improves the patient so that instead of being here and declining slowly, they are in a much better state and declining slowly. So that improvement lasts for many years going forward, keeping above where they are now. But actually a most important thing is that on a day-to-day basis, in Parkinson's that has gone on for a few years, it's a bit like going to the seaside and seeing giant waves going. And Siva experienced this himself prior to the operation, that on days his medicines would cut out and he'd be really stuck and unable to walk, not able to speak. And then this would then turn back on and then off again, almost like waves. And with deep brain stimulation, we smooth those waves down. Not completely, but we don't have these huge oscillations in the day. So that's a very major benefit.
And lots of people will be hearing you speak now and have seen the film and will be taking a lot of heart and hope from that. So who's eligible for this operation then?
So really we're looking for people where the medicine has not helped them sufficiently, so that the control of their Parkinson's is insufficiently good with their medicine. Quite often that's the tremor, that medicine can't reduce the tremor well. But it's really the patients who have these on-off fluctuations like waves during the day and are having a large part of the day, 3/4 of the day, when it's very poor quality time. If we do deep brain stimulation, then we can reduce that to maybe 24-25% of the day is not good quality time. But that's a huge expansion. So we expand the quality time in the day.
And Siva, talking of that quality time, we
Okay.
saw you in the first film. You said that you would often go out into your garden and you would cry. And how are your days now?
At least I can't move my hand or my leg I can't move much. If I do some digging soil, I can put a stool and everything. Now I don't need a stool or anything. I can do myself anyway.
Siva and Dr. Bain, thank you ever so much. And if you need more information about Parkinson's, there's some available on the website.